I just bought a car. I already paid the seller. We met up. It was 650 bucks. Luckily, it is within 3-minute drive away from my house. To have an issue with a fuel pump, I wish it was. It just cranks and no start. The owner thought that it was a starter issue, but I saw that the accessory belt was spinning when he tried to start it, so that is not the case. Right now, what I want to do is go out there, brought a little bit of tools, starter fluid, multimeter, some fuses. I want to make sure that it's not the fuel pump relay or fuse. I'm about to stop by and walk you through what my process is. Hopefully it'll work out. It didn't. And you'll learn something from it, and maybe you'll be able to replicate it and make some money on a car. I have no intentions of keeping it. It's a 2007 Chevy Cobalt. There she is in all of her glory. She's a rusty one. Okay, so we're gonna pop the fuse cover off. Based on my research, this is for the AC, so we're gonna pull it out, swap it with the fuel pump one, and then we'll also pull out the fuel pump fuse. Okay, the fuse is good. What the f? Okay. We're going to use starter fluid and see if that helps us at all. Try and spray it right in to the throttle body. Okay. We tried. We'll just get it to the house, figure it out there. So let's dig into it and try and figure out if we can find the problem. I'm gonna start checking all the fuses. I'm not sure if you guys heard that, but when I was cranking it, I did hear a little backfire. At least that's what it sounded like. That oxygen sensor in the back, and that's half of it right there. And then the rest is just on the wire, just because of this exhaust pipe being loose. So I did scan the codes for this thing, and all I saw were codes for that oxygen sensor. I strongly doubt that that would keep it from starting. Secondary oxygen sensors are mostly for emissions. I suppose I should check for spark and fuel. Here goes our coil. Okay. So here's what the spark plug looks like. I don't see anything too bad right off the bat. Let's see if we plug it in. I don't have anybody to crank the car for me, so I'm just gonna use the camera. Okay, so now we know that we do have spark. Actually, I think if I just rest on this, it would spit out fuel. Yeah, there you go. All right, so here we have a fuel pressure tester. Let's screw it on. All I have to do is cycle the ignition. All right, that looks like it will be a very normal reading. I just scanned it once again, and I got a code for the camshaft sensor. So I just swapped that out. It was like 50 bucks, so I figured might as well give it a shot. And if it's not this, then we're most likely dealing with a timing chain issue, because apparently that's a common problem with these cars. So let's give it a shot. It's acting like a dead battery. I do have the jump starter connected. So I pulled off the valve cover gasket to check on the timing chain. This is not something I'm very familiar with. I definitely see some slack in the chain. I don't think this should be the case. I think this is plenty for it to skip a tooth. So we're not looking so good. At the very least, we skipped a tooth on timing. At worst, we have a locked-up motor or damage to the valves. Timing chains is not something I want to deal with. So the thing is that I haven't dealt with timing chains before. I've never changed one myself. Chances are this motor is junk, and I might as well see if I can get some experience out of doing this. I already took the valve cover off, so we got the belt off. This is where I took the belt off of. Our ultimate goal is to take off this timing cover that's held in by these 10mm bolts. There you go. There's our tensioner. I guess we gotta remove this pulley from the crank. So I just start with these lower ones, easy to get to. Based on how black this oil is, my best guess it hasn't been changed in about 65,000 miles. Oof. I'm seeing some water looking fluids in the engine. I definitely saw some very transparent liquid in there. Could be gas, maybe, could be water. I guess best tactic of all that I always stick to is just take stuff apart. Keep doing that until you have some answers. There you go. And timing cover. Fun stuff. The guide is fine. This guide is fine too. I think the engine is seized. So I tried to rotate the engine counterclockwise, just barely, just to see if it'll spin that way, and it does. So what I think is happening is that it is so out of time that the piston is making contact with the valves, potentially, and that is the reason why it doesn't want to keep rotating. What I'm gonna try and do is remove the chain tensioner. Here's what we were looking at with the tensioner. And just freaking spin it. Look at that. So we have some spinning here, not a lot. I assume this is where we're starting to hit a piston on one of the cylinders. Let's take this chain too. This one is potentially fully seized. I decided to come back out and try and get this engine into top dead center so it's all ready for the new chain. If I were to completely take off the camshafts, all the valves would go up, so I'd be able to rotate the pistons without any issues through the crank. And I was looking at this camshaft. Look what I found. Rocker. That is not what that's supposed to look like. Trying to make sure you get a good look. See this roller? Here's what they're supposed to look like. They're supposed to be in a upright position. They push down on the belt springs. Well, as you can see, this one is not doing that no more. So we're definitely going to be taking off the camshaft and trying to figure this one out. But chances are, if that broke off, then our valve has to be bent, right? All right, let's pull off this cam. Okay, if everything went according to plan, this should be able to come up. Yeah, okay. Down here, camshaft, and here's that rocker. Cylinder 4, I assume this is. Both rockers are far from where it's supposed to be. So this one was loose and just hanging out, and then this one seems to be a little wedged in here. There you go, popped it out. So I don't think the camshaft itself is damaged. I don't see any scoring. Take off this cam too, and then I can rotate the crankshaft while all the valves are in their upright position. Now all these guys are loose. All the valves are supposedly all the way up. I'm not necessarily seeing that because I can see some springs being higher than others. No idea what that means. Could be because the valves are bent and they're not going to come up higher. That is entirely possible. Guess one way to find out would be to rotate the engine, and if it does end up getting stuck anywhere, that means the piston is sitting on the valve despite the valve supposed to be being up. And if the piston does hit a valve and the crankshaft does get stuck when I'm rotating it, that means that the piston is making contact with the valve because the valve is bent and it doesn't come back up all the way. At least that's my logic behind it. Once again, no idea what I'm doing, just kind of trying to reverse engineer the engine. Let's see what happens when I rotate the crank. Okay, keeps getting tighter and tighter, and now it's stuck. I think this means that we have a garbaged motor, at least the head. Would I rather swap out the head or the whole engine? I have no idea. Should I just junkyard this car? Engine removal in this wouldn't be too bad, but annoying enough for, you know, like $1,000 profit, if that. Ugh. I'm so not happy right now. We got some decisions to make. Why don't you make a guess about what I decided to do? Drop a comment with your guess, like and subscribe while you're there. To give you some background, getting a head from a junkyard would be under $100. However, there's no telling that a head would be good. I could spend a whole lot of time taking off the head at a junkyard and finding out that it's a bad head with a similar issue, because I noticed all the junkyard cars with this engine, they weren't crashed. So chances are that they either had a catastrophic engine or transmission failure, because both of those things would give enough motivation for the sellers to just junk their car instead of fixing it. There you go, $100 head with small amount of success and unknown amount of time spent. Plus, I don't know if the rest of the engine is bad. Entirely possible that the pistons got messed up, so I'd have to take off the head. Option number 2, get an engine. I found a $400 engine, but it was almost 2 hours away, so it'd be a long drive. Once again, a lot of time spent on pulling the motor, putting the new one in. Probably a decent solid chance of success, but a lot of work. Option number 3, junk the car for 400 bucks, which is what I did. It was 450 bucks. That's that. I lost $300 in this car. It didn't work out as well as I'd hoped, but I just wasn't willing to put in that amount of work for a pretty small profit. I don't see this car selling for more than $2,000 just because of it's a crappy car. It is what it is.